Tell me about the first time you guys saw Fugazi.
Oh, I saw Fugazi in Roanoke with Kevin Kleinchester, $5. You know, that's all they ever charged. And yep, that was it for me. That was pretty much.
I saw him in Richmond in '94 or '95. They were doing a free outside show at the school there, VCU.
Mm-hmm.
It was incredible.
Yeah, $5 or free.
Yeah.
You know, and they played in Virginia all the time because it's just right there, you know. And
What do you remember specifically from those shows?
the energy. What was the energy of those shows?
Yeah, I mean, you're just looking at these like four shirtless, like ropey, wiry, energetic dudes just giving it, and then and it's that whole. They were like one of those classic bands that is sort of defined in so many ways, like the template that we still try to stick to, which is which has a lot to do with the communicative properties of music, where you give yourself through the microphone, through a guitar, through drums, through the PA to an audience. You're giving something to them. You're giving them energy. You're giving them music. You're giving them creativity, whatever. And then in return, you hope to receive some sort of like reciprocal energy, and then that becomes a circuit. And this is the way our shows go. The energy starts flowing, and as it ramps up, as more people enter that circuit, things get faster, things get more energized, and then typically by the end of our set, and this was certainly true for the Fugazi set, by the end everybody's there and they're all in one single unified headspace, and that's I think they were like the masters at that. So here we are trying to do the same thing.
I did an interview in 2009 with Ian MacKaye, and he was talking about the events, and even after Fugazi, he was saying that they would still bring their own PA, they would bring their own light systems, and they would play museums and libraries and backyards.
Yeah, those guys stuck to their guns. Unfortunately, we don't have the means or the wherewithal to do it exactly like they did. They're kind of one of a he's a one of a kind.
They're
dude.
one of a kind.
Yeah.
Well, has Baroness played museums or libraries? What are
We
some
played
obscure
basements
shows?
for years, and we played houses for years, and I've been in other bands, and we've slept on floors for years and years, and we've traveled on absolutely nothing. So yeah, I mean, we haven't played museums yet. That sounds.
No,
like
we
fun
actually
to me.
did. Right, like
Yeah,
just before you joined, we did a show in Boston. Well, it wasn't a museum. It was at the art school. It was in the common area of the art school / museum there, and when in North Carolina, there, back in the mid 2000s, 2005, 2006, there was a pretty thriving scene in Central North Carolina. We used to play libraries and like coffee shops and stuff like that a lot, bookstores,
Oh, wherever you can get a show.
Yeah, literally wherever you can get a show.
Wherever you can get a show.
Do you feel that younger bands now misunderstand DIY?
Yes, big time. I think technology is ramped up so hard now that like communication between people and getting shows is just what I've noticed is the influx of like bands coming up and like just jumping on shows, which works for so many bands. You know what I mean? Like I think there's been an influx of that because there's like this network now that's greater than it used to be in a way, and it's so easy. It's at everybody's fingertips. So everybody's ends are open more so than they were. I think you used to maybe like dig a little harder, and
Yeah, well, I mean,
you had to dig in a little harder back.
And Pete and I came up like at the tail end of physical music, where we had to work our fucking asses off during the week to be able to afford a 7-inch record that had 5 minutes of music.
Right.
There wasn't you couldn't go steal it.
No, we mail ordered. I mean, you mail
mail ordered.
We didn't have record stores.
You mail ordered. You put your fucking time in because those labels were putting their fucking time in.
Yeah.
Those bands are putting their fucking time in, and everybody had one goal.
Right.
To get the music out there so that people could enjoy it, and that's why Pete and I became part of that. Even as it was dying, it was still like a perfectly relevant thing for us because we were so far removed from record stores where you could just get whatever hot flavor of the day record was coming out. We were ordering records from Kill Rock Stars and reading Maximum Rock and Roll and getting the Discord releases as they came out, and that was important because that taught us the ground up grassroots style of doing things.
You guys mentioned the Melvins earlier in the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I have an interesting quote from you, John, from a couple of years ago. You said that
Uh-oh.
my job is to find a way to make what I do relevant in the face of change. Speaking of your visual artwork, how do bands like the Melvins stay relevant over time?
I mean, the Melvins are like a clear example of a band who pays no heed to the wants and desires of their audience, who's stuck to their guns and their mentality and their sort of direction, creative direction for 25 years. I don't know.
They have standing power as a band because of that. Now, the Melvins just popped up yesterday. Be a different story. You know what I mean? It would just be a different story if that band just now popped up on the scene and nobody had ever heard of it. It'd be a little bit different of a story. But this band's been around for 20 years. They were there like as things unfolded and broke wide open, and then they were there when that scene started to close back in a little bit. But they always had that standing power to stay through doing what they do.
Yeah, I mean, and that's super enviable because now you see
They were the band that
huge
introduced me to
Belker
heavy. When I first listened to that Deep Six comp with like grinding process and everything on, I was just like, that was the band that marked heavy for me, and that's when I took a new direction, and that's when I took that low string and dropped it down.
So you grew up listening to Fugazi, listening to the Melvins.
Mm-hmm.
Metallica was another band. And you guys played with Metallica and Lamb of God in Australia.
Sure. Yeah.
So how was that? What was
Awesome.
that like?
It was rad.
It's fun.
It was like a childhood dream.
Yeah.
To get on stage with your heroes and share a stage with your heroes and share a conversation with them and even be invited to do it. Just the sheer invitation alone was enough. I think. I always thought, well, if we don't get this tour, at least the offer was on the table, and that was enough for me. It really was. Like, that's really rad. So it was awesome. Really rad.
Yeah, I mean, I think in my head, or in the collective head of the band, I think we built it up to be something sort of fantastic, and you know what I mean, like in just like an overblown sort of way. Really, the thing that impressed upon me the most with that tour, from start to finish, was that at its core, at the foundation level, that tour was a tour like any other tour. Well, our job, their job, and Lamb of God's job is to plug our instruments in and play music to a crowd. And
and that's the only thing that made it like any other tour.
Yeah, but
the only thing.
But I think it
really was. I mean,
to me,
that
I
was
thought
a
it
whole
would be.
World. That was a whole nother world.
I thought it would be something. I just thought it would be something different. But the same rules apply in front of their audience that apply in front of
any audience, really.
in front of any audience.
Yeah.
It's just on a larger scale. And yeah, I mean, it was a blast. I got nothing negative to say about that tour. It was awesome. It was fun.
Yeah.
I'd do it again and again.
In a heartbeat.
Yeah.
I mean, you've also toured with Deftones, Mastodon, Between the Buried and Me. And something interesting that I thought when going through your interviews, you said that 9 out of 10 times, some of your most memorable moments are having dinner at somebody's house with people that you've never met.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean,
food. First of all, we're big food people in this band. We all love to cook, and when we're at home, and we all love taste testing food around the world.
Yeah.
So where you're gonna get the best meal? Not gonna be like in that corner shop. It's gonna be like a heartfelt, soulful meal in someone's home.
Yeah, no offense, House of Blues, but it's like the other thing that I think that you need to understand about the way that our band works, and I know a lot of people for whom this is true, but like a significant portion of the reason to do this is to travel and experience and see this, and see try to soak in something new every day. And as this you realize like there's this network of people people who are willing to open up their homes and their kitchens to you, and they don't know who you are. You know, like I could be some horrible person, but you know, people all around the world, I mean, literally from here to the exact opposite pole of the world, have, you know, just have sent something from what we do, or the way that we travel, and have ingratiated themselves to us, and have given something to us that's like, you know, it's like totally unwarranted. And I mean, there's when you've been on the road for 2 months, you're not worrying about the things that you worried about when you started the tour. You're worrying about you know, like a nice bed and a good home cooked meal, because that shit goes right out the window.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome when you can get it. Makes it all really awesome. Yeah, it does.
Back to the topic of music and technology. I know you did the second EP all in one take, with exception of the vocals done separately.
Right.
Yellow and Green. Let's talk
Not
about
in one take.
Not in one take.
Many takes.
Yeah.
Is there still that organicness?
Yeah, well, of course there is, because that's you know, that's the base of this band is organic songwriting, organic playing, organic performance.
We recorded this record just as straight up as you can record a record.
Yeah.
I mean, we wrote the songs, demoed the songs, got in the studio, laid down the tracks, and just let it. And that was the record. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, there was really, I don't even know. I mean, there wasn't anything complicated about it. It was just like plug in and hit record.
The only complicated thing was that we recorded, you know, more songs than we have in the past. So it, you know, we just had to organize it a little bit better.
That's right.
But we were working with a producer who's first and foremost a good friend of ours, and you know, equal to that, you know, he's a fantastic engineer. He's a fantastic producer who's got a mentality that very much runs parallel to ours, in that, you know, the studio is meant to record your band, not some hyped, manipulated, processed, reconditioned, reformulated version of the record.
Right now you're on tour with Meshuggah.
Mm-hmm.
When you look back to the Jab days, could you ever have imagined that this
Absolutely.
Hell no. Hell no.
No way. There's
My
no
mom
way.
was waiting for the phase to end at that point.
Yeah, I think all of our parents were like, "Okay, cute, honey. All right, you know, like."
Way to go. You know, because like, look, when we started, it wasn't, you know, I've seen a lot. I've seen through, you know, we've been on tour for however long. We've met some incredibly natural prodigies, like just guys whose dedication to the craft of playing outweighs mine by so much. You know, when we started, it was just guts and energy and you know, it's just something to get out all the bullshit that was building up inside us, and that's what it still is.
Yeah.
The fact that, you know, the fact that we've been doing that, Pete and I have essentially now been playing music for 22 years, is pretty staggering to me. It's just you don't. I think if you want to be a great band, you can't assume that that's going to happen. You know, we didn't have any like musical schooling or anything like that. Like, we learned that shit on the streets.